Hello, my name is Dinie and I am a knitter and crafter and lover of all things fibre and textile. And I am really keen to see whether or not I can do a knitting podcast. So here goes. Now, I'll tell you a little bit about me. So I live in the North Island of New Zealand in a little place just outside Rotorua. I'm very lucky. I live on a 1 acre section, so I have a little bit of land, a beautiful view, and I'll show you that because it's really what sold me on the house, the property. And on the property I also have a shed, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about my big shed later on. I have some chickens, I have a couple of sheep, and I have a little border terrier puppy called Red. She's 8 months and she'll probably show her face at some point because she does love to come and get cuddles and a bit of attention. So I am a midwife, and at the moment I'm on a sabbatical. One of my daughters is going to have a baby soon, and I'm taking a few months off just to spend some time with her and to see where I'm going to go from here, because I am 61 and I probably don't want to be working for another 10 years. So I'm hoping to move my life onto a craft life. So let's see where we go with that. Now, I have been knitting since I was a child, but I didn't really start knitting properly until I was pregnant with my first child, James, and James is now 40, so that's quite a long time. And I did a lot of knitting for my children when they were small, but then once polar fleece was invented, couldn't get wool on them for love or money. And to be perfectly honest, wool wasn't kind of like the yarn that we get now. A lot of it was pretty itchy, or it was completely synthetic. So I don't think polar fleece was too much far away from actual synthetic yarn. Anyway, so I did actually, when I was thinking about this morning, have a little memory that when I lived in England, because I lived there, I grew up there basically. So I was born in Zambia. I went to England when I was about 7 to boarding school, moved over there when I was 9, and I grew up there. And then I moved to South Africa, met my husband there, and came over to New Zealand with 5 children in 1994 and been here ever since. So I had this little memory of when I was living in England that I had this favourite aunt, Auntie Ollie, and she actually owned a sort of knick-knack shop and also sold wool at the back. And in those days, you used to buy your wool and they would keep, well, they'd actually keep all the balls at the back because you'd buy your balls one by one, or you might come in and get 3. So she'd have lots of regular customers and they would put aside the yarn for a particular top or whatever they were making, and then just come in and buy their wool. And that was literally one of my most favorite things that I did, was actually go and help her in her shop and sort the wool out and touch everything. So it wasn't just touching the wool, it was just touching all the stuff as well. I really enjoyed that. Anyway, so I started knitting when I was pregnant, and I made this little top with a bit of help from my then mother-in-law for my first boy. So I made the little dungarees as well. So that was his little coming home outfit. And after that, I did all sorts of sort of intarsia, which is sort of very 80s with Donald Duck and Mickey Mouse and all of that sort of thing. And then didn't knit too much. I actually did knit a Norwegian jersey, which I'll show you another time, because I'm amazed that I managed to do that, and didn't knit for many, many years until my own children started having babies. And then I started knitting loads of stuff for my grandchildren. So I don't have it here because it's gone. It's been worn. It's been worn by several grandchildren. And even now, it's probably what I've done a lot of until the last year is baby knitting, children knitting, which probably for some people is quite boring. And then I started knitting a couple of things for myself, and I am really into looking at other people's knitting, watching podcasts. Fruity Knitting was one of the first podcasts I watched, and my mind was blown away by all the interesting people that Andrea and Andrew had on there, and just how precise she was with her knitting and how skilled. And that's why I call myself the Imperfect Knitter, because I honestly don't believe I've ever knitted anything perfect. I don't think I ever will knit anything perfect, because I will undo things, but I really often just afterwards look and go, oops, found that little mistake there. And sometimes it's not even a little mistake. So you'll discover that if I ever do another podcast, because I will talk about the imperfections of my knitting as well. You probably can hear Red in the background playing with her toy and chewing her bone. And there's not much I can do about that, because she's just going to be around me all the time. So I'm going to stop that a minute. I know that people on other podcasts share about what they're drinking, and unfortunately I am not a healthy drinker. I have a cup of coffee, so it's a long black with a bit of cream in, and I am using a little cup that my granddaughter made for me, and she called it the Love Cup, and it's so sweet. It's got a little bird on the handle. So I can't even remember if it was Christmas or a birthday, I bought her a pottery course, and it was wheel throwing, and she absolutely loved it, and the instructor said she was a natural. And to be perfectly honest, I mean, look at that, it's beautiful. So the other thing that I wanted to perhaps introduce into some of my little chats is that I bought a mini commercial spinning mill. So last year, when I was really getting into my podcasts, my knitting and all that sort of stuff, I discovered Nutiden yarn, which is an unspun yarn. I'm not sure if, well, actually First of all, I sort of discovered the Icelandic wools, and I was really excited about the sort of the short and the long hairs and all of that. So from the Icelandic yarn, I then sort of got into buying some Nutiden yarn, which is absolutely scrumptious. And that got me into thinking about spinning mills, and she just looked like she had this amazing spinning mill life. I mean, hers is huge. And something just popped up on Facebook. It was a spinning mill that was for sale in New Zealand, actually not very far away from where I live. So I went and had a look at it and bought it. So that was in January that I actually bought it, and we're now in September, and I still haven't managed to get it moved from there to here, because I've had to get my shed ready, which is a big job in itself, and I can talk a bit more about that too. And I can show some pictures as well. So hopefully in the next 2 or 3 weeks, my shed is going to be all ready to go, and the machines will come over. So I can show you the machines, and I thought I could share that entire journey, because I just do not know how to run these properly. I've had some lessons with lovely Julie that I bought them off, and I'm going to be turning fleece into fibre. And she has alpacas. That's what we've been learning on, is alpaca, and she will show me how to do sheep as well, and I'm going to learn on the job, so to speak. I'm pretty sure I can actually take fleece and turn it into carded wool for spinning. It's whether or not I can take it from that and turn it into a yarn at the end of it. And what I want to do is buy fleece from around here, from local farmers, because it is almost a waste product. Many farmers just literally burn or throw away the fleece because it's difficult to get to market, and it's probably more expensive for them to get it to market than it is just to get rid of it. But the sheep do need shearing. So I'm not going to talk about that now, but I thought I could talk a little bit about the kind of knitting that I'm doing. So I've got a couple of finished objects, and I will start off with this, which is a Nutiden yarn. I'm going to show it to you. I'll pop it on. I actually need to get the pictures up. So this is the Novice Cardigan by Petite knits, and I use 2 strands of the Nutiden yarn. Do not ask me what colour it is because I really can't tell you. I'll have to stand a little bit further away so you can see it. But it is very snugly, slightly oversized, which I quite like, so it's more of an outer garment. And I also liked my buttons that I used. I don't get them from places like Spotlight, which is our kind of one of our big crafty stores because they're so expensive, but there's another little shop that sells all the buttons in the little bottles, and I bought them from there. So I absolutely like this. So it's the Novice Cardigan, it's top down, and it's quite a quick knit. See this pilling? I don't care. It's quite a quick knit because it was on big needles. Let me have a little look at the needle size. 6mm and 7mm. So it did take a couple of weeks. I am not a speedy knitter, but this was quite a quick knit. And then you can get that pattern on Ravelry, by the way, the Novice Cardigan, and it's by Petite knits, like I said. The next thing I have to show you, I don't even know what the pattern is. Oh, actually, I could talk about this. So this is also a top down. I think it was meant to be Golden Fern. So I'm going to get the Golden Fern up to show you. Oops. Oh, that's a different one. Sorry. I'm totally new at all of this. Oh, I've lost it. All right, Golden Fern. I'm going to have to find it again. Just going to turn this off while I find it. Okay, I'm a total novice at this, and I am going to learn how to put a picture in here of the Golden Fern. But it basically is a colour work top, knitted from the top down in the round, and then it's got colour work at the bottom. So I discovered this where I'd done all of the yoke, and it was to the underarm. And I think the reason why I stopped was I was saving it so that I could do knitting if I was waiting at a birth. Totally forgot about it. And the other thing was I did not have 3 different colours of this particular yarn to do the colour work. And it is a beautiful yarn. It's New Zealand made. It's an Outlaw yarn. Oh, it's going to be back to front for you, but it's Outlaw yarn, and it is 45% Polworth, 45% alpaca, 10% possum, and it's made here in New Zealand. It's really soft and it knits up beautifully, and I ended up just making something else. So what I did was I carried on knitting, and then I did a twisted rib at the bottom, which is something I sort of took from another top that I made, and I'll show you. And then instead of doing long sleeves, I really like little short sleeve things, I just did a feather and fan and then cast it off, and I really like it. So where I live in New Zealand, it's often cold enough that you need to wear jerseys, obviously, in the winter, but it's not freezing cold like Canada or parts of the States, and so having little short sleeve tops are very, very handy. So I've got another couple of short sleeve tops, which I've done, and one of them is based on the Versal by Albiona McLochlainn. I've actually got a long sleeve brown one, and I've also got another short sleeve one that I combined with the Magnolia. So this is another little short sleeve one, and this, what I love about the Versal is that you can choose the neckline, and with the neckline I really like this going up. It's not too close, but it does give you a really nice protection against the wind, because I actually get a very cold neck, and I have this thing about keeping my neck and my warm chest warm. So this has got some very fine detailing. I'm sure a lot of people have used the Versal, but it's a consignal sleeve, and this was what my very first attempt, and not very good. So I don't think the shaping was very good, but it did get a bit better by the time I'd done the brown one. So I'll show you that another time. But this is also done in a Nutiden yarn. Again, I don't know the color. I could probably look it up, but it's not that easy to look up, because once the shop's closed, you don't actually see the colors again. But I'll see if I can look it up. But the Versal you can also get on Ravelry, and it is a lovely, lovely basic pattern. It fits so nicely over the shoulder. I do like the fact that you can have it oversized, you can have it more fitting. She gives you the man's version. You can have a double rolled neck, you can have a shorter neck. And now, of course, she's got this hoodie thing that you can do, so I'm going to have a go at that. I'll show you that another time. Everything's going to be, I'll show you that another time. But anyway, what's next? I made this. Let me take this off, sorry. Here we go. This is a little something I made. I was going to make a full long sleeve cardigan, but again, I ended up making something short. And it is made out of, I've got heaps of it left, which is silly, Isager tweed, colour North Sea. And it's a 70% wool, 30% mohair, made in Ireland. And I ended up making a little light cardi, which is very nice with dresses. But what I'm not happy about is there's no shaping at the back there, and I really don't love the neck. But actually, if you do the top button up and you've got a dress on, it's quite nice. It's just a little something to keep you warm in that intermediate weather, which is sort of where we are at the moment. And then another thing, which was a finished object until 2 nights ago, is this magnolia. So this is the magnolia summer. I can already see a mistake that I just showed you there. And I made this for my daughter. So I'm going to try it on and show you, because I think it looks, it's worth a little look, and I'll explain to you why it's no longer a finished object. All right, so what I love about this is how it fits. It's a very nice knitted in the round, top down, 2 strands. I'll show you the yarn I used in a minute. Now I've done 3 of these. So this particular one, my daughter just wanted the magnolia on the arm. You can also do the magnolia here, and in fact I'll put a picture up, and you'll see in that picture that the magnolia has the pattern on the arm and at the waistband. So what happened was I knitted it, but it is very loose, and I feel like what I'm going to have to do is rip it back to the end of the pattern and then literally almost gather it in and rib from there. So hopefully that will turn out nicely for her. And like I say, I'll put that in for you to have a look at. But the yarn that is used is a Holst yarn. Oh, sorry, I'm going to have to grab it. Hang on a sec. Everything's going to be in reverse, obviously, because I'm using the reverse camera. So it's a Holst yarn Noble, and this colour is called Cider. It's 95% Geelong wool, 5% cashmere, and I have a feeling they've actually stopped making that particular type of wool. and then I mixed it with Isager silk mohair, and the two together actually make quite a rusty color. I kind of think she wanted more that color, but she hasn't got that. She's got this rusty color, and she's pretty happy with it. So that is something I'm already lovely framed, because I'm terrible at ripping back. I hate it. She ripped that back for me, and I'm going to pick the stitches up, and then I'm going to do that variance and then fix it up, and then hopefully I can show it to you at the next podcast if I do another one. Now, what else am I doing? Oh, this is something I've been wanting to do, and I feel like this might inspire me to get started and get going. This is also again around unspun yarn. So prior to getting the Nutiden, I sent off to Iceland and got some Plotuloppi, and I got to tell you, that was a mission. It was very reasonably priced, and I bought it in plates. They come all in these little these plates, and the postage from Iceland to New Zealand was literally as much as the actual wool. And I thought, oh my God, I can't even justify doing that. And then I kind of found a way of sending it to a box in America, and then from there they post it to New Zealand. So it was still expensive, but I was just like, this is my dream. I want Icelandic wool. And so I got it, and I have not made anything with it yet. Also, on our version of Craig's Corner or whatever it is, so we have Marketplace. That's it, Marketplace. I bought from someone letloppi, and that is perfect for what I need in my pattern. So the pattern I'm going to use to make with that is called the Utivist, and I'll stick a picture in there, but I'm going to just try and show you on the laptop to start with. So it is a fabulous construction. I have got to show you this. It's everything I would like in a knitted outerwear garment. So you do shaping at the bottom so that the back of the top is lower than the front. It's got a zip up front. It's got long sleeves, and you can either fold the cuffs over or put your fingers through the cuff, keep your wrists warm, which is fabulous. A couple of pockets. These are all things I haven't done, but I'm going to give it a go. Colour work at the top, and then you knit a hood. There's some colour work on the back of the hood, and it's got a little peak at the front. So there are a lot. It's steeped as well. So I've kind of watched her little video on some of the different techniques, but I'm going to put that on my needles and show you that as I go along. As one of my works in progress, and see what happens. So that's very, very exciting. I'm going to be doing it in the grey. And these are going to be my contrast colours. I could actually do contrast. I've got the pink and the grey as well. So I don't know. I'm going to be using some of those, but I'm pretty sure I think I got this orange and the blue to do that, but we'll see. Now the Icelandic wool is actually a lot sturdier than the Nutiden yarn. The Nutiden yarn can be quite tricky to knit. You have to knit it very mindfully and pay a lot of attention to basically not breaking the strands. And if you haven't used an unspun yarn, that's another whole thing we can talk about. And it actually does make me laugh, because occasionally I go to this fibercraft group, and of course they do a lot of hand spinning. I mean, I know how to hand spin. I've got a spinning wheel, and when you explain that you're using unspun yarns, they're like, that is weird. Like, the whole point of this is to use the yarn and spin it and what have you, and the only thing they would do with an unspun yarn is probably felt or spin it. So yes, I just felt it was not that it wasn't welcome, but they were just like, what's the point? But I really like that unspun yarn. You end up with a very light, very warm product, and you don't use a lot of wool often, and you get to see a lot of the natural features of that yarn. And in fact, some of the Icelandic stuff that I've read about said that that was how people used the wool initially, because it was the quickest way of getting it knitted up. And then once it was knitted, it would often felt, which would make it more waterproof, and that was what they wanted. They wanted to waterproof their garments, and it would make it windproof and weatherproof. So obviously we don't always want to do that now, but that's what unspun yarn was for. I'm waffling. I waffle a lot. In fact, my husband calls me water beetle brain because he thinks I skip from one topic to another. And I did actually have a little plan there. So that's my works in progress. Oh, I want to show you all my plans. One other thing is what I want to do with this yarn here. So this yarn is an alpaca and sheep mix. Don't ask me what the mix is, because this yarn is very special to me. When I went over to Outlaw to learn how to use the spinning mill, we got lessons from the lady Julie that owns it, and I went over with my sister, my husband and a friend, and we stayed for a couple of days and just worked on the machines. And the first day that we worked on the machines, we ended up with a little bit of the most beautiful fine alpaca yarn, which Julie gave me, and I've given some to my mum, and I've kept a little bit myself, and I want to make something for my new grandbaby that's coming in a couple of weeks. It is so soft and light and beautiful. But then the next day we spent using what she calls, well, it's the waste yarn. So when you're using the spinner and stuff, or all the various machines, there's yarn that, or fibre that doesn't go through the various parts and goes into waste bags. And so it's from the waste bags, and then on the spinning machine is a sucky thing that pulls fleece through through a little wee, well, it's just a sucky thing, I don't even know how to explain it, into a big container. And so all of that, we reprocessed it. It went through the carding machine, and then it went through the pinning machine, and then we spun it. And this is what we ended up with. And it smells sheepy, which is so nice. And it's got a slight sheen to it. It's quite a good twist. And I want to make something for myself out of this. I thought about dyeing it, and then I thought, no, this is, you know, this is the natural color. Let me just keep it as it is. When I have my spinning mill, I do want to dye yarns as well, and mix the fibers and spin it up and make a heathered yarn. So we'll see how that goes. But I'm going to show you quickly the pattern that, where did I put it? Oh, here it is. It's out of the Making magazine. So this one is the Forest number 8. And I actually saw Flossie, the Flossie podcast lady. She had knitted one of them up, and that was absolutely lovely. And then I remembered that I had that exact same pattern. So I'm going to give that a go. What I love is the detail here. And I think having a natural yarn is going to really help show off the yarn. It's going to look great in that pattern. And I also thought maybe for the buttons I might get some driftwood and have a go at making some driftwood toggles. So I may or I may not get that done with this top, but I definitely want to have a go at making driftwood buttons. I have a friend who's so crafty, I'm going to have to introduce her to you one day. And she, I think, has done that. And so I'm going to ask her and have a go at doing it myself. So that's really all I want to show you in terms of my projects and my, whoops, I have to learn the lingo. So I'm going to have to learn how to edit, learn the lingo, learn to look in the right place on the camera, which I'm not very good at. But I really would like to share my knitting with you. And the only reason why I say that is I have got so many hours of joy from listening to other people and learning about their lives and seeing what they're doing. I think that this community of knitting is really a way that we can actually find the things that connect us. I mean, the world is at the moment in a place where there's so much disconnect and so much divide and isolation and stuff like that. So being able to find your tribe, your people on podcasts is just lovely. And when I say that, I mean it's varied. So many people from so many countries, so many different cultures, different ways of knitting. I love hearing what people do and seeing what they do. So just hope that maybe this is 20-30 minutes of time where you can relax and see what somebody else does. I'm going to talk a bit more about some of the podcasts that I watch that I love that you may enjoy, and see if you are watching the same ones. Thank you for listening so far. If you are interested in hearing anything particular or want to ask me any questions, please comment below. I will put the details up of the different projects that I've talked about, and I will also do more podcasts if that's what anybody else is interested in. I keep thinking, well, even if I put them up and nobody watches, I'll at least have a record of my mill and how it got going and how I've learnt the craft and just what I've been doing. It's be like a little video journal rather than writing things down, because I'm not very good at writing down journals. And this is a way of sharing that with you and myself and even my grandchildren if one day they want to watch it. So thank you so much for bearing with me on this first talk, and I hope that I get to see you another time. So if you want to see me again, please subscribe and I will post again. I'm not sure when, maybe a couple of weeks, when I've got some progress with the mill. When I've done something else I can show you. But take care wherever you are in the world, and I just hope for you some peace in your life and some knitting time, and goodbye. In the distance you can see the thermal, it's Mount Nongapaha. Sheep next door. And